Yes, my arteries are blocked. I am on my deathbed with excellent blood work, normal kidney function, liver function, A1C. I am just literally about to die. But let me explain to you what really causes heart disease. People think just because they eat their little fruits and vegetables that it's saving their life. Well, it's not. Let me tell you why. Heart disease has been linked to a metabolic disease, meaning chronically high insulin, chronically high blood sugar, and too much sugar in your blood is toxic. Too much sugar in your blood is diabetes. Too much sugar in your brain is dementia and Alzheimer's. Too much sugar in your ovaries is PCOS, and the list goes on. When you eat your little fruits and vegetables and low-fat stuff, you're still continuing to be a carb burner.
No. If there's one thing that science is certain about, then it's the fact that there is no be-all end-all diet. And the carnivore diet is not a part of that definition, or at least not in the long term. Today, I would like to point out something that the carnivore tribe is being hypocritical about. So she mentions metabolic disease, high blood sugars, and so on and so forth. I have one question for this woman. How do you know that high blood sugar levels, or for example, high blood pressure, which is a part of metabolic disease, is being detrimental for your health? How do you personally know and determine that you have diabetes or high blood pressure? How did we come up with those numbers? I guess you are relying on science. Those numbers and associations were basically determined by probably 3 methods. Method number 1 is observational, method number 2 is randomized control trials, and if we have any data, then genetic studies come into play as well. Now, let's use high blood sugar levels and high blood pressure as an example here, so let's go through some evidence together, and then I will tell you exactly why I personally feel like the carnivore tribe is so hypocritical. I obviously won't go through all the evidence. I just want to point out some of, in my humble opinion, good, well-constructed studies. We start off with something that many of the carnivore tribes seem to be despising, and that's observational data. This meta-analysis of 102 prospective studies looked at diabetes, or I should say fasting blood glucose concentration levels, and the risk of vascular disease. Let's not glance over the fact that they included 102 prospective studies here. They came to the conclusion that people with diabetes had a 2-fold increased risk for vascular diseases, independent from other risk factors. Let's move on to the next step of evidence, and that's randomized trials. This randomized trial wanted to answer the question whether weight loss can put type 2 diabetes into remission. And the results are astounding, to say the least. People that lost around 10 to 15 kilograms of body weight had 86% to put type 2 diabetes into remission. Scientists in this study used MRI scan to look at the fat deposits in the liver. And this saw a great reduction in the fat deposits in the liver, in the pancreas, and other key organs when it comes to diabetes and blood sugar management. And of course, there's many more randomized trials done on diabetes, but this is just a little glimpse. And I also don't want to waste too much of your time talking about type 2 diabetes here, because we are here to talk about something else. And that is the hypocrisy of the carnivore tribe. But for the time being, let's move on to blood pressure. This systematic review and meta-analysis included 124 core studies with more than 1.2 million individuals. And they saw that elevated levels of systolic blood pressures are a major risk factor for stroke, ischemic heart disease in both women and men. Now that builds up some confidence, and of course we also need to test it out in very controlled settings, such as randomized controlled trials. This systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials looked at blood pressure controls in older people with and without diabetes. And the results are as follows. intensive blood pressure control reduces the risk of cardiovascular outcomes in older hypertensive patients. We had a look at observational data, randomized control trials, and now let's have a look at genetic data. Now, Mendelian randomization looks at people that have a genetic predisposition to answer some questions. For example, the following Mendelian randomization we are going to look at is at people that have a higher blood pressure genetically. There are certain genes in your body that force your body to have a higher blood pressure. And it doesn't really matter if you do kind of like sports, eat healthy, or you don't drink or you don't smoke, the blood pressure stays high within those people. And this Mendelian randomization study was conducted on Chinese adults. And they found that the sooner we can treat high blood pressure, yes, even in younger ages, the better the cardiovascular disease outcomes will be. It's pretty clear that high blood pressure and high blood sugar is not a good thing. Now, why am I presenting you all this data? Because in the carnivore tribe, many people will tell you that LDL is not a risk marker. It's no secret that many people that follow a carnivore diet have high LDL levels. So what evidence do we have here that basically tells us that high LDL levels are probably not a good thing? Well, I'm so glad that you asked, because we have prospective cohort studies, randomized control trials, and Mendelian randomization trials that basically show us that high LDL numbers are no bueno. And I would like to highlight one graph that combines all the data basically and summarizes really, really well. And that graph was extrapolated from the statement from the European Atherosclerosis Society in 2017. On this graph, what you see right here is that the red line represents randomized controlled trials, the gray line is prospective cohort studies, and the blue line are Mendelian randomization studies. The graph reads as follows. The lower the LDL, the lower the risk for coronary heart disease. And the line that shows the greatest risk reductions are the genetic studies. So the people that have low LDL levels from birth. Now, my point is that if you accept the fact that high blood pressure and high blood sugar levels are not good for you, and you rely on that argument on science, then you also have to accept the fact that high LDL levels are not good for you as well. And you can turn a blind eye on LDL all you want, but again, that doesn't neglect the fact that this huge amount of evidence is out there and it exists, whether you want it or not. What are your thoughts about this topic? Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.